I just want to say before the video starts, please don't hate on the quality. I am re-downloading OBS and I didn't realize it was recording in 1920 by 1080p with only 30 frames per second, and the encoder is not to my graphics card, it was to my CPU, and it is terrible. Again, please don't mind the quality, please enjoy. Hello, my name is Georgie, and today I will be doing a tips and tricks guide in Anime Last Stand. This is going to cover everything in Anime Last Stand from World 1 until the current update with Gilgamesh. I have timestamps for every part and will cover pretty much everything from RR farming to what units to get, etc. If you do enjoy this video, please leave a like and comment down below what helped you in this video. With that out of the way, please enjoy. Now, I am going to be starting in World 1, and these are basically just the basics. If you're like level 1 to level 20 or so, and you need that little push in the right direction of what units to get, what would help you, etc. So, my first thing that you should be doing once you play any tower defense game, in my opinion, is to go over to the codes in the bottom right corner, and this will help you dramatically. Whatever, trait crystals, pearls, or anything like that, this will help you, and this will get you at least started with the game. Next, what I recommend is going over to summon, and at least sometimes the first banner is extremely good. Like right now, Whis is in the summon as a mythical, and he's pretty good on his own. He released back in World 2 with the Dragon Ball update and with Godly Goku. So there's a few good units, and they're already strong enough as they are. So if you are able to get Whis, or one of those good characters that appears in World 1 banner, or the banner 1, that will be pretty good. Also, Yuri, he's pretty good. I think he's a hybrid. Yeah, he's an air unit, so you will definitely need him. And if you want to slow, get Rukia. Sometimes there will be bad banners, so you'll have to wait a couple of hours to get a good unit. My last playthrough, I got Gojo and Sukuna, and they both helped me like tremendously. And another thing that you want to do is during the weekend, you should be re-rolling your traits. So you can get, Sukuna with Avatar or Glitched or, Overlord. That will help you a lot in this section of World 1. And if you do get past Planet Namek, you can come back to the summon and then go to the banner 2, which right now this is also a good banner. Gojo is like the best unit in the game that you can get for a starter player, and Saitama is pretty good. I haven't used the Unevo version in a long time, so I don't know if he still holds up to the same standards he did when Raids came out, but he was pretty good when I used him, and of course his first Evo at least, is also pretty good. So again, if you have a banner 1 that is pretty good, you should summon, and if you don't, just wait for your gems. If you have a good, at least legendary unit, like I said, Yuri, you can get to Planet Namek easily and get the banner 2. So that is what I recommend for at least the starting bit of the game. Level rewards will help you a lot as well, because they can give you shards, they can give you rerolls, and then they can give you jewels, which will help you in the World 2 banner. Using the daily wheel is also pretty helpful, and from the jewels you can get more spins, up to 5 spins in total, and you can get pearls, cosmic essence, rerolls, pearls, comics or essence selectors, and then perfect stack cubes and mythical shards. So that is also another good way of getting easy items quickly. The gold shop is a pretty good thing as well, because you can get legendary shards or epic shards, and you'll need a lot of shards if you want to evo these units as well. Now, during my noob to pro video, I didn't look at crafting enough, but for crafting, if you have Gojo and Sukuna, you can, as I spell it wrong, you can get the 6 eyes for just crafting the materials. You do not have to do challenges at all. And I didn't figure that out until actually today, that you can craft these items. So that would have probably been a lot of help in my noob to pro video, which I might go back to now that I know this information. So use crafting as much as you can, because sometimes, there's an item that you can't really get, like Genos's materials, and it will help you instead of doing those stages for like 4 hours and not being able to get like the 4% chance. Obviously, this part is going to be for people who have Robux and stuff, but I do recommend getting the VIP and 3x Game Pass. They will improve your gameplay so much. You can get through a lot of content faster, and with VIP, you also have the discounts from the summoning, which can be really helpful once you have jewels and you don't have a lot of jewels that you can spend it on. Everything in this really is not that good. The starter bundle is not that good. All you get is just Pride starter, which is just a better version of the epic Pride that we have in game, but it's still not the best unit. In mount bundles, they have not done anything with mount bundles, so this will just be a waste of your money. And don't get any of these gems, these shards, because they're easily macroable later on, which I will get to in World 2. So, like I said, all you really should get is the VIP and the 3x Game Pass. Now, I didn't realize until recently that, world skippers are a thing. So if you have a good, confident team, like you have Sukuna and Gojo immediately, or just a good air unit, I recommend to at least do all the world skippers until pretty much Superhero City, I say, because that's when it starts to get difficult. And this is where I'll get to the part which units you should have Evo by this point. So by this point, after you get past at least Planet Namek, the units that you should have is at least Curse King, you should have Gojo, you should have an Idol at least. Speed Cart is a maybe if you want to bring 2 farms, but it's not really recommended. And you should have at least Guts. It's not, I think there are some better options, but Guts does do bleed, and then he becomes a hybrid for a little bit, but then he goes back to ground. But his Evo process is pretty easy compared to others, I think, in my opinion, so you can easily Evo him into his ultimate form, and that should be at least the first ultimate that you should get, which is Guts. Igris is a pretty good contender as well, because he's only a 400 placement. He does bleed and then gets hybrid relatively quickly. I think he gets his hybrid by at least upgrade 5, which is 23,000, but with Idol, you're pretty much making that like almost instantly. Now, this could be debatable, but this helped me with my noob to pro is getting Miss Dragon, because she does slow and she's immediately hybrid on placement, and she's doing 400 cost, or she's a placement of 400 cost. So that's a pretty good slow unit immediately. If not, you can get Green Esper, which is from Banner 2 as well, and she is pretty good on her Evo once you get the World 2. With that out of the way, that's pretty much what I would recommend for World 1 at least. Guts will probably be your biggest help, Gojo will be your biggest help, and Sukuna will also be your biggest help. And you can pretty much get the World 2 from those units alone. I also recommend doing some of these raids, because Sunjin Woo from Hell City, he's a pretty good unit to also get in World 1. He does take a bit of time to get the Evo and to get him, because you need to get Sunjin Woo, and then you need to get, like I said earlier, Igris, and then you need to get Tank, and you need to Evo both of them, which costs Shadow Essences of themselves, so you need 6 Shadow Essences, and 2 of each of the characters, so 2 of the Tanker and 2 of Igris. So that will take a bit of time to Evo, but I would have to say Ultimate Sunjin Woo is pretty helpful in World 1 if you have the time and patience to get him. Over here by the little sanctuary and dome, you can do Enchanting Altar, and you can get all of these enchants. The best one that you can get without having to go into the mythicals or celestial enchants is probably Glorious, will be your best bet. And if you don't have a lot, just stick with Mastery for now, because it is pretty much the same thing as Glorious, just it's 30% less on the damage multiplier and like a 0.5 SBA reduction, which I mean is not bad. Another one that you can get is Efficiency, but you want to mostly get this on your farm units. I got it on Akame, and it didn't really help that much because of just how much money I make in general, but it was still pretty helpful to have her as like a placement cost or a starter unit. Also, using the index will be pretty helpful because you do get a lot of jewels and rerolls from these. So that's also another thing to take into consideration as well. And using the milestones will also help. I apparently not have done this before, so that's just free 5,000 gems or jewels and RR. So that's also another way that you can get a lot of good rerolls, gems, and jewels. With that out of the way, we can now head to World 2. Now the World 2 gate will include bare bones, so just be mindful of that, and it is pretty easy now. So with Gojo, Sukuna, and the other units that I mentioned, you should get through it pretty easily. Now that you have reached the second world, I would say this is probably the middle section of the game, so here's some tips for that. Now the first thing that I do recommend if you have saved your jewels is to go over to the summon and go to the ultimate banner, and there are, I think, 4 ultimate units that goes through the banner. You get Broly, the one girl from Chainsaw, an Attack on Titan unit, and then you get Benimaru. I do highly recommend pulling for Benimaru because Benimaru will help you the most, and he has an Evo. And I think his Evo is better than all the other ultimates, at least in the game. Now in Banner 3 as well, you can get 2 Celestials and you can get 2 Mythicals, which will also help you a lot. This banner is not that good. I think besides Fear, I think I've heard before that she does pretty good damage, and she does do an effect called Fear, which is 15 or 20% more damage to the enemies when afflicting fear onto them. So that's another good thing. Again, if you've spent some of your jewels on the wheel, that's totally fine. You can still get gems or jewels anyway. Now in my opinion, the first unit that you should probably get once you get to World 2 is Goku Black. Goku Black is an unsealed unit, and he is helpful against every elemental enemy in the game, at least for the most part. And you can easily get him by grinding to, 60 pity, and with all the Saiyan tokens that you can get, you can go to the raid shop, you can go to Zayon token, and then get the Scythe of Sorrow, and he will carry you through at least most of the game until the past few updates. I think the one that he can't really do, I think, is Unknown Planet. I might be wrong, he might not be able to do the story previously, but he is one of the best units to get for that moment once you get into World 2. Now you might be asking yourself, what godly should I go for first? And there are pretty much a good variety of units to go for. You got Pride, you got Sukuna, you got Dio, you got Ichigo, and you got Goku, and the rest of these units. The first godly that I think that you should go for is Wukong. Wukong, when I was going from the first time of his quest, which actually was getting him and doing the legend stages, he took me about, I think, 6 hours, and that's going to pity on his legend stage, which again, Goku Black will take you through most of the game, and you need to get to Ryudu's town. Snowy Village, and he is on Legend Stage 3, and he is pretty easy to get. He does have a pity of 30, which is more forgiving, and these winter essences, you can get it so easily from each stage and be able to evo him. And the rest of his quest is pretty simple from then. He is a pretty strong unit on his ultimate, so getting the boss rush kills is pretty easy. Getting the kills on his god form and then finding his evo materials is pretty good. All of these other ones, like getting the Wukong form, is pretty easily. Getting Nature Essence. Nature Essence is going to be probably a bit difficult if you don't have a good fire team, but even again with Goku Black Unsealed, he pretty much solos at least the beginning half of the stage. And again, you would probably be doing caverns with other people, so you are contributing a bit towards that, and then slay 15 bosses infinity mode, slay gods in boss rush mode, which that will be with the tokens, which is this, so you'll get that easily. And then doing any raid, pretty simple. If you're able to do the first raid to get the shadow essences, you're pretty good from there. So that is the number one godly that I recommend that you should be going for at least. Now on screen I have all the progressive tier lists of all the units that are on it, and like I said, in the early stages you have Goku Black, who is a bit on the bottom there, but again, he is still pretty good. Some of these units might be a little hassle to get, like Asta, Sunjin Woo, Kirito, Shinra, Conrad, Goku, and Wind Prince. But everything from basically like the bottom of the unit, I would say is like alright to get. They're not the hardest to get, but they're also not the easiest if you don't have very good units. On screen again is all the godlies in the game, ranking from overall, infinity, progressive, and support. And you might notice that Ishigo is pretty down there in the tier list, but he is getting a rework as this video is being made. Who knows if this video is going to be uploaded tomorrow, and the Ishigo buff is already there, so he might be higher on the list. But you see that you have Gilgamesh in pretty much the top 3 without being in support, which, I mean, Dio over Heaven is pretty good as a support. I don't have Dio over Heaven quite yet, because there's just so many godlies in the game, and I don't know how that is. And so is Sukuna. Sukuna's on the bottom too with progressive and support. Again, I don't have him, but he is kind of higher on the list in Infinity and overall. So take it as you will of what you want to get from this tier list. From this tier list, I recommend, again, Wukong is probably the easiest. I think the next easiest to get is probably Pride or Luffy, I think, because Pride got recently a buff, or a buff in the past at least a couple of updates, and basically it's just grinding Hogtown and then getting some of the units from the banner and then getting their materials from the stages, which isn't that bad. It's a 1% in normal and then a 4% in all the other stages. So again, take that as you will, and then everything else will kind of just come with ease. So again, take that as you will. Now with dungeons and survival. Dungeons and survival are pretty hard game modes on their own. I haven't tried villain evasion after they changed the time down to 12 minutes, but this is a good way to get these coins, which you can take to the survival shop, go to villain invasion, and then get your shards and your rerolls and your pearls. And then these two evo materials, they are pretty much needed for Garo's evolution into a godly, so you might take a little bit of time there. But with Wukong, I think you can pretty much almost solo it if you don't have any modifications on. Um, so again, take that as you will. Without any modifications, it's 1000 to 1400. So yeah. And then with dungeons, you'll probably be completing this with other people. I have been completing it with other people. The most that I've been able to at least solo it with the team that I go with is 5. Um, Most people, if you have 4 and you don't have very good units, I recommend at least 2 or 3 curses. Well, the modification requires 2, but 3 is pretty good, and from the amount that you get is about, I want to say 100 per run that you do. And if you want to go for Shinra, you have to go for basically pity, and you can go to the dungeon shop, buy all the evil materials for them, and then like I said, go for the shards or, pearls or rerolls or anything like that. So this is more of an end game content in my opinion. But if you have known modifications, again, if you get Wukong and then Pride, Godlies, you should be able to pretty much solo them by yourself with little to no difficulty. It is hard to say since I do have both of these units with other strong units, so kinda not able to tell what it is, but yeah. So pretty much here and on, you're pretty much getting into the endgame content where you're basically just getting all the rest of the godlies and you're doing elemental caverns, trying to get good units from those, and you're trying to get good units to, easily be able to just solo everything. The Easter event, once you get into the second world, I do recommend doing this because Akame is probably one of the best fire units that you can get, and she does well over 1 billion damage when I was posting my video about her. And she's kind of like Isagi if you get Isagi from the banner and then do the raids of the U18 map. And then with pretty much endgame content, like I said, it's just getting all the godlies. You're basically grinding the raids to get more rerolls and stuff, and you can go over to play to do the elemental caverns. The best way that I believe to get reroll tokens is doing Infinity. Um, the Infinity mode in either a Hog Town or like one of the harder stages that's released for that current update. So right now, it is the story mode with Gilgamesh. If you do the Infinity from there, you get a lot of rerolls from the Nightmare mode. If you want to get jewels and gems, I do recommend doing the raids because you do get a lot of jewels each run, and I've got 39,000, so I haven't needed to really worry about it. And you get about 4 to 5 rerolls per stage, but there has been some times where I don't get the rerolls. So it's like 4 to 5 reroll tokens every other match. So it's not that highly recommended to do raids unless if you want to do or to get the gems and jewels. And that's basically my tips and tricks for this from World 1 to all the way to World 2. Now, I might have missed some important content that's like what units to get for World 2. To be honest, for World 2, it's kind of just up there because the meta is changing like every other day. Like one day, Giorno was probably the best unit for a while, and now it's Gojo, and then it's Asta, and then it's like some random unit that, got randomly buffed from like the first time World 2 was introduced, and then old units are getting Evos and all of that stuff. So the meta is kind of changing all the time, but I do recommend playing with friends to be able to at least have a easier time on going through the game. If you are doing it solo, then good luck to you. At least this video helps you on what units to get and what to get later on. Again, if you do like this video, please leave a like and comment down below what helped you. And if there is any other tips that I did forget, please leave that down also in the comments below, and I will or pin your comment if it was really important. So again, I hope you guys have a good day. I hope you found this extremely helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.